Welcome to Sustainable in the City, where Nashville sustainability champions take the spotlight. Join Urban Green Lab and the Nashville Department of Waste Services as we dive deep into the stories of everyday Nashvillians. We'll chat with your neighbors, coworkers, and fellow community members about the small sustainable actions that are making a big impact on Nashville. From reducing waste to planting trees, our guests will share their stories about the benefits, barriers, and motivators behind everyday choices. Tune in and be inspired by the power of individual action. This is Sustainable in the City.
Welcome to 2025 Sustainable in the City listeners. My name is Allie Omens. I'm with the Nashville Department of Waste Services. We're a department of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County. We educate and provide outreach to residents across Nashville to learn how to reduce, reuse, recycle, compost, and properly dispose of their waste.
And I am Karissa Hampton. I am the Assistant Director of Households with Urban Green Lab. We are a Nashville-based nonprofit that teaches communities to live sustainably in all the places that we learn, work, and live. Last episode, we actually left off with Michael and Nancy's tips. One of the tips that they had suggested were to switch over to kitchen cloths. I actually have always used kitchen cloths and towels and things like that, but I actually put my paper towels away in the closet, so I had to go get them out of the pantry every time I use them, and I have used significantly less.
That's awesome. I have a reusable coffee to-go container, and I haven't used it as much as I would like to. So after Michael and Nancy's tip, I have been leaving the container near my back door where I go to and from my house. So it's just right there in sight, so I can see it before I leave to go get a cup of coffee out at a local coffee shop. And I've found myself using it more because I think it really does make a difference. Like with your paper towels, when you see something, it prompts you to either use that thing or not use that thing. So putting the reusable option right there in easy grasp and putting the disposable single-use stuff far, far away. So that's great, Karissa. And as we're here celebrating the very first episode of Sustainable in the City in 2025, I have a bit of a call to action to our listeners before we get into the rest of the episode. We would love to hear from you if you are planning a New Year's resolution for 2025 that involves being more sustainable here in Nashville, reducing your waste, incorporating anything that you've learned while listening to Sustainable in the City in 2024. So please email us at sitcnashville@gmail.com with anything and everything you want to share, and we may include it in a future episode. And if you haven't listened to our last episode, be sure to check that out. We had a low-waste couple on, Michael and Nancy, to share their ever-growing list of sustainable household practices. They are ditching non-recyclable packaging, swapping paper towels for reusable cloths, like Karissa had mentioned, cutting junk mail, so much more. So today, for our very first episode of 2025, we are hosting a Nashvillian who celebrates his birthday every year by hosting a community cleanup in the Antioch neighborhood. He is making our city cleaner and greener, and I just love that that's how you choose to celebrate your birthday. He also went through the process of adopting a street, and he's going to share with us a bit about what that means and how that works, and how it ties into being a civically engaged Nashvillian.
And so without further ado, we do have a Nashville native and longtime friend of mine in the studio with us today, LeLann Evans. Thank you, LeLann, so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so let's start off with your story. So can you share your personal sustainability journey and what led you to care so deeply about the environment?
Yeah. At 14, I had the ability to travel overseas for the first time, and a lot of my sustainable living journey comes from my international experiences that I end up honing in into my own individual personal experience. And so at 14, I got to travel to Thailand and got to see firsthand the difference of what it's like to live in a foreign country, of what their public plumbing was like, and being in a area where they didn't necessarily have running water at all times. That is what sparked the idea of sustainable living in my life. And then continuing through other journeys from traveling abroad. So in 2008, getting to travel to China and getting to be there during the Olympics, when there was a big issue about the smog and air pollution that was going on, made me start to realize again the different types of sustainable living and the different aspects of what we are doing to this planet and what the effects are, the long-term effects of the people who are going to be here long after us. And so from 2008, getting to visit China and seeing the air pollution, to 2010, getting to travel to Haiti and getting to see one of the poorest countries in the world and understand that these people still wake up every day and live life, and understand that they still wake up and are excited about the lives that they live, made me take more serious the life that I lived and the privileges that I had living in the United States, and what that looked like on a individual level as to what can I do to better my society, better my community, but also on a global scale of always remembering that there is other people out there who are thriving in life with a lot less than what I have as an individual. And so just over the course of those 4 to 6 years, planted a seed inside of me that has just continued to blossom and grow. And every time that, whether I leave the country, whether I leave the state, it's just more things that I pick up on from having those first few experiences of seeing what it's like for other people who live off of a lot less than what we live off of, and just being appreciative of the country that we live in, but also understanding that there's a lot of work that can still be done, and it's up to me and my community and those around us to play our part.
I appreciate that it sounds like you've brought your learnings back to Nashville.
Yes.
When you visit somewhere, it's like, okay, how can I use this to make my community better? Which is really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say that traveling to Haiti, living in a tent for 2 weeks, and literally bathing with just a bottle of water made me realize how much water I waste, because I take long showers. I can't lie. I use a lot of hot water. I shower for a long time. And so getting to a space where I did not have that privilege, I did not have that ability to just sit in the shower and just waste water, made me realize how inconsiderate I was being by not understanding that just allowing this water to run is a privilege. And so being in Haiti, and like I said, having to shower with just one single bottle of water and doing it and still feeling like I was able to accomplish what needed to be done made me start to realize, like, hey, there's some things that when I get back to America, I need to adjust myself.
Yeah.
LeLann, I met you shortly before you started to do these birthday cleanups. How did you really get into that?
Yes. So the birthday cleanup started after I got back from Paris. And like I said, the experiences of international travel has played a huge part, because so many other countries already take sustainable living serious. They already take climate change seriously. And so being in Paris during the Paris Climate Change Agreement, that was something that stuck with me while I was over there. And again, bringing back best practices and bringing back tidbits of knowledge to implement and to share with my community. And so in 2019, one of my friends told me he was going to come get me and we were going to drive around and just look at our neighborhood. And so as we were doing that, he asked me, what did I realize? And the biggest thing was that there was just so much trash everywhere, from couches, mattresses, tires, car parts, alcohol bottles. It was just so much trash in the Antioch community, in an area that we love, that I love dearly. And so we wanted to figure out a way to change that. It dawned on me that if we weren't going to do it, that it wasn't going to get done. And it turned into more of a opportunity for us as the community to take pride in our community, to stand up for our community, and to do something for our community. It became the opportunity where, for me, I know a lot of my friends would never want to come to community cleanup, but wrapping it around the idea that this is my birthday, it gave me the ability to hold them accountable to doing it for me. And so it took away from the idea like, hey, I want you to come clean up the community with me on this random Saturday, to, hey, if you really support me, if you really care about what I care about, if you really support the things that I love, then I want you to show your support by coming to my birthday. And my birthday is going to be a community cleanup.
We kind of got conned into it. So since you started your cleanups, what changes have you noticed in the Antioch community?
Well, I would definitely say that there has been more community cleanups going on. I've seen multiple flyers posting on Facebook groups and things of that nature of people doing community cleanups. And I'm excited for it because I do think that the more people who catch on, whether it becomes repetitive or redundant, at the end of the day, if there's trash to be cleaned up, then I want everyone to play their part in keeping our community clean. I love seeing the increase of people doing more community cleanups and just taking more initiatives, whether it's a community cleanup, whether it's whatever it may be.
That's great. We had another guest on Sustainable in the City talking about their efforts to do a cleanup in East Nashville, and we were sharing that it's one of the lowest barriers to entry, I think is what he called it. Like the idea of just going around and picking up trash. You don't necessarily need high-tech equipment. Of course, you should have a safety vest, ideally, so that you are visible on the roads. But other than that, it's really just the physical ability to bend over and pick up a piece of trash, which seems like such a simple thing when you think about it that way. So,
Yes, and that is so true that when you take away the idea that it has to be this huge organized event that has to deal with all these planning and things like that, the biggest part of doing a community cleanup is just spreading the word and getting people to show up. But there's resources out there for the community to use to do specific things like community cleanups, and being able to just show up and pick up the trash. That's like literally, like you said, the gateway into being able to be a community leader, a community activist. So Metro Beautification actually supplies majority of all the resources necessary to have a community cleanup, especially as you go through the Adopt a Street process. Once you do get registered as a reoccurring cleanup, they do supply you with the vest, they supply you with gloves, they supply you with litter grabbers, they supply you with trash bags. They let you know where to leave the trash bags so that they can come pick it up. And so Metro Beautification, shout out to them. They definitely make it a lot easier to host community cleanups.
that's great. That's great.
And adopting a street is a big step. How do you think that has really changed your view of like community responsibility?
It really gives you a sense of ownership. And so when driving past that street and you see your name on it, or you see your organization's name on it, or your friends and family see your name on it, it really changes the idea of I live in this community to I am a part of this community. My fingerprints are visibly in this community at this point. And so adopting the street just made it more visible for others to see the impact that they could have in their community. And so with having friends who would text me like, hey, I just seen your street sign, or hey, when it first happened, them taking pictures in front of the street sign and things of that nature. For me, that excitement is great, but the reality of it is more so because there's someone who cares enough about the community that they're going to clean it up. And putting those two together for them to see the street signs here, this is a person who's going to clean up the community. He's just like me. I could be doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And for those that don't know, and I actually don't fully know this myself, what's the process for adopting a street? Can you talk us through that a little bit?
Yes, it's actually a very easy process as well. I started off just by Googling Adopt a Street. It's literally that easy as far as to get the process started. I seen the street signs that said adopted street by multiple times. I never really thought anything of it until I was like, you know what, I want one of these street signs. Like, how do they get them? And so it started off with just a Google search of how to adopt a street sign. And sure enough, Nashville.gov has a section that's for adopting a street. And so if you go to Nashville.gov and search there, or again, like I said, if you just type into Google search adopt a street Nashville, it'll take you to the website. You will go through filling out a couple different forms as far as what is your organization name or what street do you want. I know there's different lengths of street. The most difficult part of the whole process was identifying a city street versus a state street, because with the two being different, if you were to adopt a state street, you would need to go through the state website versus adopting a city street, you would need to go through the local website. And so for me, I wanted to adopt Bell Road, but Bell Road is actually a state street. And so I went with Mount View Road, which is slightly off, but I know that I wanted to adopt a street that was close to the public library and the park, because that is where I take my kids. That is where, as a child, I grew up in the Antioch area by the mall. Mount View Road, Bell Road has always been a staple part of my life here in Antioch. And so that kind of played a part in me figuring out what street and how far, how much of the street that I wanted to adopt. But for the most part, it's literally just a form. You fill out the form, you get approved. And so for me, I started in 2019, going right into COVID. And so there was, my experience is probably a little bit different than other people's experience when it comes to adopting the street. But for the most part, you fill out the form, you do a couple cleanups. They confirm that you've done those cleanups, that you're going to actually take it serious. And then they'll put up a street sign to help you promote the fact that you are doing great work in your community.
Yeah.
Again, it's not necessarily about the street sign itself. It's about the community.
Yeah. I want to go back to mentioning, you said that you have some friends who have been talked into participating in the cleanups because it's your birthday. Have you had conversations with them where they kind of realize the importance of the work of cleaning up litter, or what are some of those reactions once they start doing it, or do they just think it's icky?
So my friends have been very open-minded to the whole community cleanup. Each time, they are usually the ones who motivate me to continue to do it. So February 15th will be the 7th annual one. And again, this has gone through COVID. This has gone through, again, February. Sometimes Tennessee Februarys are freezing cold. The last two times it's been decent. And so through thick and thin, my friends have been the reason that I've continued it, because each year has come back and said something that this community cleanup has done to impact their life. And so whether that is being out there and not noticing how much trash literally is on just one street in Antioch, or whether it's them taking that personal time to clean up, and while they're out there having a enlightening moment, a spiritual moment of them giving back to their community, whether it is the idea of motivating them to do something that is in their community. I have friends who live in East Nashville, I have friends that live out in Bordeaux. And so them coming all the way to Antioch, that's another big thing, because most people, you're from Nashville, you live in Antioch, you're not driving out to Bordeaux. If you live in Bordeaux, you're definitely not driving out. And so having people who care about me and care about my mission and what I care about, and them coming to the birthday cleanup and getting to experience it, has really, like I said, been motivation to me. But also each time that we've done it, I've gotten great feedback as far as how it impacts their life, whether it is again, a personal level, whether it's a community level, whether it's opening their eyes to be like, yo, I've never picked up trash. I'm usually the one littering and throwing this stuff out here. And so for them to actually see that this doesn't magically disappear, this doesn't just go away. We all have to play our part in keeping our community clean.
Here's a quick tip from the Nashville Department of Waste Services. Bag your trash. It's required for curbside collection and helps keep litter out of our streets and neighborhoods. Secure your trash in a bag and place it in your cart to keep Nashville clean.
When you're out there picking up material, do you have people that either walk or drive by and kind of look at you and wonder like what you're doing or why you're doing it?
Absolutely. And so the way that we do it, we try to make it a full birthday party. So we have a DJ out there.
Oh my
We're out there having fun. We did a plant giveaway last year. And so we want the community to be engaged by it. We want people to drive by and ask what's going on because we're in the vest. We have the bags. We have the litter grabbers. And so when people are driving by, they're thanking us. There's people who've come over and been like, hey, I just want to tell you thank you. There's been people who have no clue what was going on, showed up and decided, hey, I want to participate and be a part of it. We also have amazing cupcakes that that also plays a part. And so it's really just a full fun experience that, yes, the community, when they see it each time for the last 6 years, I've had people come up to me and ask me about the event. How can they be a part of the event? How can they learn more? And so it has been a great feeling to see the community get engaged, even if they aren't actually participating that year.
Yeah. So it really is a birthday party.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a full celebration.
So cool.
Can you mention some of the other things that you do at these birthday extravaganza cleanup events?
Well, yes, we've had elected officials come during election season. We've invited elected officials to come out and speak to the importance of individuals playing a part in their community. We've had them come just to see what it's like out here in Antioch, for them to get an understanding that as they take their place in office, not to forget about the Antioch community, the Antioch area. But it's really about finding different ways to engage and bring out the community. So whether it's a birthday cleanup this year, I've thought about doing a cleanup in the October area where we would dress in our Halloween costumes. So costumes and cleanup. But in the past, yes, your typical cleanup probably was boring and dry for me. And I've worked in the political space. I've worked in the community engagement space long enough to know that you got to be able to keep that fire, that energy, to keep people engaged, to keep them wanting to come back and do it again. And so if we went out each year and did a cleanup on February 15th in the code, and there was no fun, there was no DJ, there was no plant giveaway, it was just about going to pick up trash, then I don't feel like we would have made it to 7 years. But because this is a full celebration, because this is a full community engagement, because this is an opportunity for them to get other resources from other small business companies. That's another thing that we do. We get sponsors from other small local businesses in the Antioch community because, again, this is about us building that community to be what we want it to be so that we don't have to go to other communities, other parts of Nashville, but we can stay right here in our Antioch community and love what we have, love what we see, and continue to build that economic development in the Antioch community.
Mm-hmm. And pride, too.
And pride, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to pivot us. I know we've been talking about birthdays and fun things. I want to pivot us to a barrier, or maybe barriers that you've experienced to doing this work, because as much fun as it sounds like you're having, I'm trying to think back to the 7 years ago how it must have been like when you were first starting out.
Yes, there has been many barriers from COVID was something that was like, yeah, you should probably just not do it this year. And instead it was like, you know what, we're gonna persevere. Same thing with it being in February. Every year it's like if it's gonna be less than 30 degrees, I'm probably gonna have 5 people show up. If it's more than 50 degrees, then obviously it's gonna be a lot more people. So the weather is always a factor when dealing with the community cleanup. The final thing I would say is just dealing with flake rate. People saying they're gonna come and then they not show up. Um, but understanding again that it's the people who do show up that it's all about. People can say they're gonna come, people not gonna show up. You think you're gonna get 60 to 70 people come, and you end up with just 10. And you have to accept the fact that those 10 people receive something from the event you put together, the community cleanup. The community still gains from it, regardless of how many people show up.
And so that's awesome to hear about all the people who show up. Who is showing up in the community? Who is out there, every single time or the majority of the time in the community?
Yeah, so when we first started, we had a ideal audience. I do a lot of education geared towards high school students. And so I wanted this to be geared towards high school students so that they can understand at a younger perspective of what it means to take ownership of your community. And so in the first few years, we targeted high school students, went into the schools, started talking with the teachers, asking if they would give their students extra credit if they did come out on a Saturday to do community cleanup. And so the first 2 years, it was dominated by high school students. They were out there in large numbers, and I really appreciated that. That's one thing that I want to make sure that we get back to this time is, again, getting back to targeting the high school students so that they can take ownership at a young age of the community that they live in. Each year, we have given away $250 to a Metro teacher just out of understanding that teachers have it, in my eyes, the hardest profession that they have to do. They make the least amount of money for the amount of work that they have to do. And then also just personally knowing teachers and going into those classrooms to speak to students and seeing what it's like to be in a middle school or a high school and seeing what they were dealing with. And so the focus of that $250, while it's not much from a individual perspective, to be able to reward teachers and let them know that their community cares about them, let them know that there's somebody who sees them for the value that they have, and that while I may not be able to give them that, I'm able to give them a small piece or a small token of my appreciation. And so focusing on engaging the everyday community person, so your middle schoolers, your high schoolers, your teachers, even your bus drivers, the focus of this community cleanup was to encompass the community itself. And so we targeted Thurgood Marshall, we targeted Antioch Middle, we targeted Antioch High School. As a John Overton alum, definitely targeted Johnny O. Shout out to the Bobcats one time. Uh, and so we really wanted to engage the community heart, and that is the children who are going to be growing up in this community. It is the families who are going to be in this community long term.
And this isn't what you do for work, right? This is just a celebration, right, for your birthday. And so how do you stay consistent? How do you balance it with everything else that you do?
It is about sustainability. As far as being able to sustain the give back in the sense that it's not overbearing, it's not work. It is something that I enjoy being able to do because of the feedback that I get during those events. So again, having friends tell me, bro, I would have never picked up gum wrapper off the off the ground, let alone picking up for an hour trash on Mount View Road. And so hearing those stories and understanding that it is making a difference. I might not be stopping climate change from happening, but I am impacting an individual who would have never done this had it not been for this small event. And so taking those small rewards of being able to enjoy hearing that feedback, but then also, again, I'm active in the community in the sense of I take my daughter to that park. And so it's personal in the sense of this doesn't have to be work, but the work has to be done. And so, again, just not looking at it as work that we got to go clean up the community because it's a drag and it just has to be done, but looking at it as a task or a riddle of like, how can I have the funnest community cleanup event to engage the most amount of people?
Another barrier I'm thinking about too, there's often a perception in the waste industry, people that collect trash and collect recycling, there is that perception of it being dirty work and it being maybe lesser than work and being looked down upon, which it should not be. It's very important work. So I guess I'm wondering if you have experienced or felt some of that when you're out picking up litter, that it's kind of a dirty work that people look down on.
Absolutely. Over the 6 years that we've done it, even myself, I've had to remove that stigma of picking up trash is beneath me, below me. Like you said, dirty work. Some people see it as a job for prisoners to do, as they pick up trash as well. And some people see it as, probation work for people who have to do community service and things of that nature. And so really removing the stigma of this being beneath you as an individual and getting them to understand that we all have to play our part. Again, it's not going to go away by ignoring it. It's not going to, the wind is not going to blow this piece of trash into some magical new space.
There's no trash fairy, right?
Yeah, there's no trash fairy. The trash is still going to be there. And so understanding, again, that we all have to play our part in making the community the type of community that we want it to be. And so if that means removing that mindset of this is dirty work, yes, there are dirty things that you'll be picking up. But again, the resources that Metro Beautification gives you, such as gloves, such as litter grabbers, such as the trash bags, you never have to do any of the actual quote unquote dirty work. It's more so, are you willing to put all that aside? Are you willing to do what it takes to make your community look better? But then also, one thing that I do want to plug is that the Nashville Hub app allows you to also say if there's like larger items. I think that's something that has over time been very useful because, like I said, we used to see mattresses and couches and things like that. And being able to use the app to go and like say, hey, there's something that needs to be picked up there. That is something that, again, if you don't want to get out there and do the dirty work yourself, then use the app and just tag where the dirty work needs to be done.
This episode of Sustainable in the City features Hub Nashville, your go-to for non-emergency metro services. Report issues like broken trash cart lids or litter in your neighborhood through the Hub Nashville app, online at hub.nashville.gov, or by calling 311. Help keep our community clean and green.
So seeing less and less trash each year is motivating because it lets me know that the work that we've been doing over the last 6 years is starting to be recognized by the members of the community, and they are starting to see that when it's a clean community, not to just throw your cup out the window, not to feel okay to throw your Burger King wrappers on the ground. Even again at the park, being mindful of where the trash cans are So that way, if you and your children are having a snack or whatever, making sure that they are playing their part in keeping their community clean as well. And so each year, seeing it be less and less trash is exciting. It means more than likely we're going to have to find a different location in the next year or two. But I guess that just means there's going to be more street signs, huh?
Was there anything that you want people to know, because this episode will come out before your next birthday cleanup?
Yes.
Anything that you want people to know before they show up to that?
February 15th from 11 to 1 at Mountain View Road, right in front of the Plato's Closet. We will be having our 7th annual. I'm excited. So please feel free. It is open to all ages. Bring your kids, bring your grandmother, bring your significant others, bring whomever, bring your friends. We're going to have fun like we always do. Like I said, we'll have a DJ. We'll have gifts to give away. We've always had some type of giveaway. I'm not sure what we'll do this year, but we'd love to see everyone there. Again, this is about the community. It's not about the sign. It's not about me. While it is my birthday, it's about an opportunity to just share it with the people in the community that I love so much.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. I'll be there.
I'll see you there, yes. And thank you, Urban Green Lab, for partnering with us. Last year was our first year partnering with Urban Green Lab. It was a huge success. I love the fact that they were able to bring educational resources to add to what we were already doing in the community. And so bringing that educational piece for members of the community to know where they can go get more resources on how to live a sustainable life and how to take it from just doing a cleanup to taking it to their household and quote unquote clean up their house.
That's great.
And one last note. So anyone new to this, what's your advice, LeLann, for starting a cleanup, adopting a street, for getting started?
For getting started, I would say the number one thing is understand what you're doing it for, because you're going to come across adversity. You're going to come across no's. You're going to come across not having support that you think that you should have, especially for selfless acts like this, where you would think that people are going to jump for joy and everybody's going to come out and support you for doing such a great thing. And there's been times where there's been 10 people at the community cleanup, and I have a family of 5, so do the math. But just know that if you're doing it for the right reason, if you're doing it for the right cause, the people will come, the resources will come, the community will benefit from, whether it's one person there picking up trash, whether it's 10 people there picking up trash, whether it's 100 people there picking up trash. Whatever you are going to do it for the right reason and do it because it has to be done, and it's not going to be done unless we take ownership to it.
Awesome. Great tip. So thank you, LeLann, so much for being here today. And we look forward to hearing all about how your birthday cleanup went this year.
Thank you. I appreciate you all for having me. I look forward to having another successful cleanup on February 15th. And I appreciate you all and hope to see you all there.
Yeah. And happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Now, for any of our listeners out there, again, Leland's tip is to think about your purpose, think about your why for taking on any sustainable action. So try to think about that and consider ways that you can incorporate that into your life. And until next time, listeners can email sitcnashville@gmail.com to reach us. We release episodes on the 3rd Tuesday of every month. So until then, we'll see you all next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Sustainable in the City. Sustainable in the City is produced by Urban Green Lab and the Nashville Department of Waste Services, a department of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County. Recording assistance is provided by the Nashville Public Library's Studio NPL team. Our theme song is produced by Draped Apes. Subscribe in all the places you listen to podcasts. To learn about trash, recycling, and composting services for Nashville residents, visit wasteservices.nashville.gov. For more tips on how to live sustainably, Follow Urban Green Lab on social media at Urban Green Lab or online at urbangreenlab.org. Join us next time for more stories about small sustainable actions that are making a big impact on Nashville.